All right, Lepore, let's move on now to what we teased earlier in the show.
Yeah.
It is the offer sheet, the big bad offer sheet that all of these teams in the NHL are just terrified of handing out to players. And it was the Carolina Hurricanes who decided to say, screw it. We are going to sign Jesperi Kotkaniemi to an offer sheet.
What a bunch of jerks.
A couple of years ago, in July 2019, the Montreal Canadiens tendered an offer sheet to Carolina's number one center, Sebastian Aho. It was a 5-year offer sheet for just over $42 million. And that sent shockwaves throughout the NHL because I believe that was the first offer sheet we had seen in like 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, it had been a while. Yeah.
And now 2 years later, the Carolina Hurricanes getting their revenge. And honestly, if you haven't checked out the Canes Twitter account, just go do it right now.
They
continue listening to the podcast or watching on YouTube, but open up that Canes Twitter account because it is absolute perfection. The level of trolling by this Carolina Hurricanes social media team is honestly one of the greatest things I think I've ever seen in the social media era. Like, first of all, okay, just to break down this offer sheet, they gave Jesperi Kotkaniemi a $20 signing bonus. Yes, you heard me correctly. A $20 signing bonus. And of course, that is the jersey number of Sebastian Aho. He is number 20. So that is the first troll. And then as we keep going, they actually sent out an announcement written in French. The Carolina Hurricanes sent out an announcement on Twitter written in French. And if you translate the announcement, it actually translates to, we gave Jesperi Kotkaniemi a hostile offer. A hostile offer. Now, for those of you who know French, maybe go double check that. I just ran that through Google Translate, but other people were confirming this as well. They called it a hostile offer. Then they also tweeted out an Uno reverse card, going back to the whole situation, how they're now doing it to themselves, right? How it was the Habs who did the offer sheet for Aho, and now things are coming back to bite them in the ass. How Carolina is giving Kotkaniemi the offer sheet. So, like, Lepore, man, the level of trolling on this was just next level. And
incredible.
And also, shout out to Frank Saravalli, who now writes for Daily Faceoff. He pointed out, if you look at what Mark Bergevin said about the Aho offer sheet 2 years ago, go look at Don Waddell, the GM of the Carolina Hurricanes, his comments on the Kotkaniemi offer sheet. They are literally almost word for word.
Amazing.
So they were trolling them. So it was such a detailed troll that they had Don Waddell essentially say the exact same thing or write the exact same statement as Mark Bergevin wrote 2 years ago. It was unbelievable. So Lepore, saying all that, I got to hear your take on this offer sheet for Kotkaniemi.
Yeah. Okay. So we constantly say on this podcast, and I think hockey fans in general, a big problem we have with our sport, this sport that we love so much, is that it's boring. Very rarely do we get entertained by things that happen off the ice. Like there's very little drama in the NHL or, people chirping these guys after games. They always say the same thing. There's never a hot take by anyone. So I am not kidding when I say that this whole process that Carolina put together of the offer sheet, the signing bonus, and the tweets, as far as hockey goes, is the funniest thing I've ever seen. I've seen as a hockey fan. Like, it reeks of like entertainment and personality. And I got to say too, man, honestly, like, we call our podcast the Gluttons for Punishment podcast because we're Leafs fans and we can make fun of ourselves. We know that we're pathetic, like as a fan base and as an organization, we're fully aware of our lack of success what we sign ourselves up for. So please, Montreal Canadiens fans, have a sense of humor with this. Like, try your best just to have a sense of humor with this. And to me, it's so unhockey. And that's why I love it so much. And what I love about it is people every summer you always hear about like offer sheets, like who's going to get an offer sheet? What are the possibilities for offer sheets? You hear rumblings from Dreger. Oh, this team's getting ready for an offer sheet. Now we've been slapped with in the face. This is why teams don't do it, because you're going to get it back. And it's like, why? I think what people forget about the offer sheet too is that you're giving something up. Like I remember, and we'll talk about bringing back to the Leafs, like when all those rumors about like Nylander and then it was Marner, like, oh, there's going to be an offer sheet for this amount. A team's got to give up that salary and 4 first rounders for like the superstar players. Like you're in that threshold. So that's why it's like there's that reserve on it. And I remember like with the Marner thing, I'm like, if a team's going to give us 4 first round picks, then we get that free cap space. I'm like, that's a lot. Like people, I'm sure there's Leaf fans out there who would say right now that's a win. That if the Leafs could get 4 first round picks for Marner today, they should do it.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying that's my opinion. I'm saying that opinion I'm sure exists. So again, it's why teams don't do it. As far as the number goes, the number's insane. Like this all being said of how I love what Carolina did. I was entertained by it. I found it hilarious. I don't think Montreal should match it. I think Montreal should say take him at that amount and we'll take it's like what, a first and a third.
Yeah. So the compensation, they have a week to decide whether they're going to match the offer. And the compensation is a first and third round pick in the 2022 draft.
It's a good draft. It's a good draft, they say too. So, and it's not protected. So yeah, man, I think if you're about like 6 million, like Kotkaniemi, like someone was posting stats about his numbers. I think the big one was assists.
Yeah.
171 NHL games. He's got 40 assists.
It's brutal.
And you're going to pay him $6 million.
And I get that he was a top 3 pick in the draft and the Habs thought that they were, drafting their number 1 center of the future. And I know they got Nick Suzuki as well, but they're thinking, we got Suzuki, we got Kotkaniemi, but man, Lepore, you said it, 6.1 million. That's a lot for Jesperi Kotkaniemi.
And it's 1 year. So he's going into that RFA. You got to do it all over again. So who knows, right?
Right now, if I was the Habs, honestly, as good as some of the moments he had in the playoffs this past season, scoring that overtime winner against the Leafs. And I know there were moments where the Habs made him a healthy scratch during this playoff run. And I'm sure maybe that played into his decision to actually sign the offer sheet.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like if I'm Montreal right now, I think I'm taking the draft pick compensation. I really think I am, especially at that number. It's like Carolina picked like the perfect number to screw them over.
You think?
At 6.1 million. Because, going back to the Aho offer sheet, how everyone was like, okay, they signed Aho to this offer sheet, but it was like a good contract.
Yeah, they were going to match it. Yeah.
Right? It's like they'd be crazy to not match this contract. Like Aho is like one of the best up and coming young players in the league. It's under, a shade under 8.5 million. Whereas with this, like it's clearly an overpay for Kotkaniemi, even though it's 1 year. So if I'm the Habs right now, man, I think I'm taking that draft pick compensation. I really do.
Yeah. What I find, and again, it's going to be so entertaining. Let's remind ourselves of who we're dealing with in this situation. It's Marc Bergevin. And that's a big ego. That's a big personality. So who knows like what's going through his head right now. But you thought it was the perfect number. Like what number would you,
in terms of like to screw over Montreal? And it's
they just kind of lose them and they get the pick. Yeah. But like, what would you, but then if you're Carolina though, too, it's like, but now he's yours at 6.1 million. Like, so
that's true.
Like you mentioned Aho at 8.5, like what would have been the number to you that like Montreal is going to match that? Like what's the highest number that Montreal was like, okay, yeah, no, we'll do that.
I think something like in the low 5s.
Yeah.
I think maybe they match like no problem. But again, like that wouldn't be enough, right? To be like, okay, if we legitimately want to steal this player, quote unquote,
yeah,
we have to offer something that's a little bit outrageous here.
Yeah. I think Montreal would have.
I think Montreal
would have done that. If like 5.1, like Montreal, I think would be like, yeah, no, we'll do it just to like avoid all this. But
yeah, 100%. But this makes them really think about it, right? Because again, this is a guy who early in his NHL career, he's had struggles. There was a point where he was demoted to the Laval Rocket of the AHL. Like it has not been smooth sailing for Jesperi Kotkaniemi, despite coming into the league with all this pedigree, being, a top 3 pick in the draft, being, what everyone thought was going to turn into, a lot of people like comparing him to Barkov. Like when he first came out of the draft, right? These big, like Finnish centermen, 6'2", can skate and has skill, but just earth to everyone, like he is not Alexander Barkov, and he's nothing close to Alexander Barkov. And I don't think in the future he's going to be anything as good as Alexander Barkov. But I don't know. He's still only 21 years old, and maybe Carolina is a lot higher than him, a lot higher on him than a lot of other people around the NHL seem to be. So yeah, man, I don't know. Maybe like you said, maybe Carolina's shooting themselves in the foot here.
It could happen. Well, like we agree, say like at 5 million, at around 5 million, Montreal would do it.
Yeah.
So then I say at $1 million more at the 6 million. As a GM, again, this is where the ego comes into play too. Will you take on that, say that $1 million that you don't want on your cap to avoid like the embarrassment? Or like it's like, I'll deal with that just to like avoid the drama of everyone pointing at us and laughing at us if we lost the player. Like
that makes a lot of sense. And just thinking about Marc Bergevin, it seems like it almost seems like he's gonna match and then like deal with the other shit afterwards. Where he might just be like, all right, screw this. Like, I still like Kotkaniemi. I still have plans where this guy is, our number 2 center behind Nick Suzuki moving into the future. Let's match the offer sheet and then deal with the cap implications and all the other crap afterwards and figure out how to make this all work.
Yeah. It's been a fun summer for Montreal, man. It's been a fun summer. Okay. So we have 6 days until this thing is done. The briefcase of $1 million. You get it. If you get the question right, does Montreal match?
Oh my goodness. You know what?
Tough, eh?
So I think, like I said, I don't think Montreal should, but I think they're going to.
Okay.
I think they're going to match Lepore. How about you?
As much as I think Bergevin's like emotional, doesn't want to get pushed around. I think he's pretty black and white too. Like I think he might just take it. Like I'm on the fence. I think I'd go slight no. Like I think we see some fireworks. I'm going slight no on that one. That Montreal doesn't take it.
Yeah,
I hope they do. I hope they do, because it'll just be like, again, the talk of it, the money, and then all the pressure on this kid because he's making that kind of money, and then the pressure on Bergevin because people will be pointing at him. If this kid's not playing well, you could have got compensation for this kid and gotten him off the book. So that's why I hope it does happen. But yeah, I think after some calming down, maybe some talks with Jeff Molson, like Bergevin will kind of lean towards, let's just move on, put our heads in the mud, and like let this thing go.
Yeah, I'm just so happy that this happened.
It's amazing
because we reached a point in this off season, and I know the season went pretty deep into the summer just based on how the schedule lined up this year. But man, like we were getting to a point where nothing was happening in the NHL. Like,
yeah,
I think hockey fans were just dying for some entertainment, for some trade or anything to happen. And you know what? This offer sheet, I think, came at the perfect time.
The most dramatic thing maybe in the sport, like a fucking offer sheet. It's amazing.
It's awesome. And I cannot wait to see what the Montreal Canadiens decide to do here. I don't know how long they're going to take to decide. Like we said, they have 7 days, and at this point, they have 6 days left to make their decision. But man, I cannot wait to see what the Habs decide to do here.
Books will be written. It's going to be awesome.